All right, so let's chat for a minute. Today's teaching lesson, we are going to focus on Hop Frog one more time. For the next independent practice lesson, we will start a second short story, and we will use that short story for your assessment as well. So make sure that you do read the second short story, which is called The Devil and Tom Walker. So let's continue, shall we? The question for this is, how does Poe present the character of the king? So looking at this specific paragraph, this is right after, it was from the second half. It's the very beginning of the second half of what we read. And so specifically it starts right here. This is when the king is trying to come up with his costume for the party. So this happens. When the two little friends obeyed the summons of the king, they found him sitting at his wine with the 7 members of his cabinet council. But the monarch appeared to be in very ill humor. He knew that Hop Frog was not fond of wine, for it excited the poor cripple almost to madness. And madness is no comfortable feeling. But the king loved his practical jokes and took pleasure in forcing Hop Frog to drink, and as the king called it, to be merry. "Come here, Hop Frog," he said, as the jester and his friend entered the room. "Swallow this bumper is like a glass, to the health of your absent friends." Here Hop Frog sighed. "And then let us have the benefit of your invention. We want characters, man, something novel, out of the way. We are wearied with this everlasting sameness. Come drink, the wine will brighten your wits." Hop Frog endeavored, as usual, to get up a jest in reply to these advances from the king, but the effort was too much. It happened to be the dwarf's birthday, and the command to drink to his absent friends forced the tears to his eyes. Many large bitter drops fell into the goblet as he took it humbly from the hand of the tyrant. So, thinking about this is what we're going to find a quote from. What comes to mind is that the king is a jokester, and he's a mean jokester, but that's a fact. That it tells us that he is a jokester. So what we need to do is find something in here that it doesn't explicitly say and make an assumption about that. So he is a jokester, yes. He is not kind. What else can we say about him that is a logical assumption based on these things? To me, personally, I would think that someone who forces someone to drink so they can laugh at them, and who plays practical jokes on someone even when they don't want it done, I would think that person is very selfish. So that is going to be my claim. So Poe presents the character of the king as a selfish man. So please write that down. You could even just say the king is selfish. That would suffice as well. So now I need a specific quote. So if we look up at the rubric, I need some context and I need textual evidence that is relevant and specific. We don't want something that's overly wordy or too long. So thinking about this, I'm going to find a specific part of this that really captures his selfishness. The two things that come to mind that capture his selfishness is the forcing to drink and the doing it to laugh at him. And so I'm going to choose this part right here, because in this, he knew that Hop Frog was not fond of wine, for it excited the poor cripple almost to madness, and madness is no comfortable feeling. But the king loved his practical jokes and took pleasure in forcing Hop Frog to drink, and as the king called it, to be merry. So I'm going to copy and paste that down here. And now I have to put quotation marks around what I just copied and pasted down here. So it had 1, so I have to add my double, because as your teacher needs to know what part of this is your context and what part of it is the quote. It's not their job to go up and look to see where the quote starts and stops. You have to show them. So you have to put quotation marks. So I pasted that down there, and then I need some context. What's happening? Who, what, when, where? So my context is the king wanted Hop Frog to come up with a costume idea for him. So the king forced Hop Frog to drink wine, hoping it would help with his creativity. And then I have the quote. So I'm going to give you a moment to write that down. You may need to pause the video if you need more time. Okay, I am going to continue on. So again, pause the video if you need more time. So my reasoning, let's look up at the rubric again. I can explicitly explain why the textual evidence supports the claim. So because I use this word selfish, this word needs to appear again in my reasoning or in some form. So I'm going to say the king knew that Hop Frog did not like to drink wine and knew Hop Frog reacted poorly to the wine, but the king did not care. In fact, the king enjoyed watching how the wine affected Hop Frog. So the king selfishly forced Hop Frog to drink wine while the king watched and laughed. So that needs to show up, this word, selfish, needs to show up in your explanation so that you are connecting the evidence to the claim. If I were to continue on to work for extending, I would need additional things. So I would probably talk about how the king didn't even acknowledge Hop Frog's birthday and how he treated Hop Frog poorly on his birthday because he is selfish. I would continue on along that line, going for extending. But for this, I'm just focusing on proficient for now. But if you want extending, we can meet and talk anytime. Even if you're not my student, I'm happy to meet with you. So thank you for coming. You are going to fill this all out, submit it as is, and then start reading The Devil and Tom Walker for your independent practice. And if you have questions, make sure you let one of us know. Have a great day.